coronavirus event. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist here at Tap the Potential. And today I am honored to be joined by one of our clients at Tap the Potential, Steve Bousquet, whose business is American Landscape and Lawn Science. Steve and his team have been in the forefront in terms of just dealing with coronavirus and supporting other entrepreneurs as they are also dealing with coronavirus and the effect on the business. So in today's Facebook Live, I thought it would be really interesting to bring Steve on and have Steve share some of the things that he had put in place in his business in advance of coronavirus hitting that has helped he and his team to be so stable and so sustainable throughout coronavirus. In the context of, as we're all facing the new normal, this is an opportunity for you looking at your business and putting some of these things in place going forward to make your business more stable and more sustainable with respect to your work supporting life and building a business that really sustains life for all the team members involved. And then the other thing that I really want Steve to share with us is about his leadership and how he and his team have led through this and kept the team together, dealt with morale issues and the different challenges that are coming up. So those of you who are joining us today as we're getting started, I think it would be really good if you would post in the chat about some of the challenges you're facing in the new normal in your business. What is challenging you? What questions are you having right now? And Steve and I will have an opportunity to discuss those with you. And I also want to remind viewers, please start a Facebook watch party so that more entrepreneurs can hear what we're sharing around self-care and strategy for entrepreneurs during coronavirus. So if you start a watch party, please post it in the chat so we can acknowledge you for that. That would be fantastic. So let me give you a little introduction to Steve. Steve describes himself as a blue-collar executive. His business is American Landscape and Lawn Science. He founded S&B Lawn and Garden Care in 1983 while still in high school. After graduating from college with a BA in economics, he changed the name of his landscaping company to American Landscape Service. In 1991, Stephen added lawn science to the company to form American Landscape and Lawn Science, LLC. Today, his company services 3,000 clients with 25 amazing team members. So with that, Steve, let's dive into what are the things that you put in place a few years ago that you see as really having been a big part of making the business more stable and sustainable through coronavirus?
So the three things that we put in place, the first one really started in 2015 when we started pumpkin planning and really identifying our clients, and that helped us to identify our immutable laws and who needs to be on our team. In 2016, I started Profit First. So, we had the financial tools and we had our vault set up and we had our margins correct with our pricing and our profit by doing the Profit First system. And reading the book, it sounds pretty simple to implement that, but once you start implementing it, there's more to that than just what's in the book, and I definitely got professional help with that, and Profit First advisors have been really helpful with that. And then the third part was really team, building the team, finding their strengths, finding how they communicate, having one-on-one meetings, having regular meetings. Before, I would say, that was about 2018. We started with the meetings. I really had a meeting phobia before that. And I think if we didn't have the pumpkin plans, having the right clients, the right team, having the money management, and then having the communication built in the company, if we hadn't had all that in place, we would really be struggling right now. But we have tools for communication and tools to manage money and tools to manage the clients and our team. So I kind of would have been fumbling if I hadn't been working on all that going into this.
Yeah, so I really hear like a three-legged stool in terms of pumpkin planning to identify the sweet spot, the top clients, then putting profit first in place and building in the margin around your services, and making sure that there was cash reserves through having profit first in place. And then you started working on your team building and strengths, understanding yourself, understanding your team members. And the other big piece was the communication, like communicate, and especially through team meetings and one-on-ones. So I want to go back though a little bit, because I know that when you put these things in place in your business, it was done during times when things were really difficult and tough. And I think that will resonate, and many entrepreneurs who might be watching this can connect with that. So what was going on for you? What was your business like? And what was your experience as an entrepreneur prior to 2015 and having these things in place?
So, I mean, I struggled like many entrepreneurs. We've been through 9/11. We've been through 3 different recessions. When the Cold War ended, the area I live in was tremendously impacted by the reduction in any type of defense spending. So that was a recession that was kind of local to our area. And we always just worked our way through it, but I didn't have like a real strategy and a real plan and a real tactical. It was just, grind it out, keep going. And that's how we dealt with it. And so we came out of the 2008 recession. The company had actually doubled, and I'm running this company that was twice as big as any company I even imagined. And I had never run a company that big. I just didn't have the tools, and I was going in all different directions, and that grind it out wasn't working anymore. And so then we were having profitable years, and the next year wouldn't be so profitable. And then we would have lots of money, and then I would be too much a month at the end of the money. So I knew, I had to come up, I had to find a way to stabilize the business, make it predictable, manageable. If I was going to continue to grow and scale, which I couldn't stop it, the company was just growing. So I had to find a way. I had to get out of the field, out of my own way, and build a team that could come along with me and make this company continue to be as profitable and grow as it was.
Wow. So as you're saying that, what I really hear is that there were so many peaks and valleys and ups and downs, and you were carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders. I know when you've told me in the past about your work, that you were working like almost nonstop every single day, coming in on the weekends. And so it was a place where the business was not sustainable. So when you started implementing, and it sounds like one of the first things you did was pumpkin planning. When you started pumpkin planning, what changed?
Pumpkin planning. So I read this book. I'm down in Mexico. It was 2015. I was so excited to come back and start implementing it. And we took, baby steps, and I did a kind of a halfway, wish list interview, and but it put us on the path. We just completed our second round of wish list interviews, but starting with pumpkin planning, it put us on the path to say, hey, this is our client. This is who we need to serve. This is the direction we need to go in. These are our people that are going to help us, be the best company we can. People who pay on time, people who are not jerks, and people who are, more reasonable are better customers. And so we just focused more on that, and it allowed my team and my staff to say, that is a bad pumpkin, and we need to get them out of our patch. So we're always getting the bad pumpkins out. So it by me doing it, it gave my team license to do it also.
Yeah. So that was 5 years ago, and that's a relatively short period of time for us. I mean, 5 years goes like in a blink of an eye, the older I get. Yeah. And I know you're really good with numbers, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I think you might have some of these numbers in your head. What numbers wise in your business, what's changed over the last 5 years with respect to profitability, revenue, increase in clients because of first?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, our profit margin was about 5.5 to 6%. And owner salary was another, say, 3.5, 4%. So maybe if we got 10% owner salary net profit annually, we were like thrilled. And then the next year it would be 4.5% profit. And, it was so, and then 1 year, 10% profit, then the next year, 5%. So that's the kind of roller coaster we are on now. So now, we're really tracking our gross profit margins, and we're looking for like 20 to 24%, net profit with owner salary. And we're doing it consistent in the last 4 years in a row. It's been that way, right? So 5 years is 1,825 days. So if you put your days out on a calendar, and you can literally see in my P&L and even on the balance sheet, especially on the balance sheet, when we started Profit First and tracking, because you have to have certain gross profit margins to meet your responsibilities when you're doing Profit First.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, this is the number we need to be at. And the Profit First is, the first year we did it, I was 12% short on net profit to cover all my Profit First responsibilities. So it was like, we need to have a higher net, and it goes right back to pumpkin plan. You can't have a higher net if you have customers that are only buying when it's on sale, only buying when it's cheap, when they always want discounts, because you're giving all your net away.
Yeah. So just to kind of to put this more in plain language for those who may not feel as comfortable with business finance and profit and loss statements, understanding that when you read Profit First, you get a real clear framework of target allocation percentages for the revenue in your business. And it basically says, for a revenue this size, you should have this percent of profit, this percent of owner's pay, this percent set aside for taxes, and the rest is left for operating expenses. And what we see in most businesses is operating expenses take up so much of the revenue that comes in. There's no margin left. There's nothing left over to cover profit and have appropriate owner's pay, much less pay taxes. And so what Steve is describing when he was talking about those really low net profit margin percentages that he had is that you were really barely breaking even. You were squeaking just a little bit of money out of the business for yourself. You're working very hard. There's a lot of revenue coming into the business. And what you were able to take out as the owner and entrepreneur who puts it all on the line to keep everything going was like this much. And you have, if I'm following and tracking your numbers correctly, multiplied that amount by 5 times. And the business has grown. So if it's a percentage that's increased by 5 times and the revenue in the business has grown considerably, the actual dollar amount that you're able to take out as an owner and entrepreneur has gone up considerably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was not focused on gross profit margin enough. I was top number, bottom number, and I didn't know how to get those to improve. And it really was through gross profit margin. John Jantz had put a post up on his site years ago, and it led me to read a book, was Planning for Profit. Plan your profit at the beginning of the year for the whole profit for the whole year. So I read Simple Numbers, Big Profit by Greg Crabtree. And it was a great system, but it was so complicated I couldn't implement it. And then Profit First came along. So that was how I could implement it. I was capable of implementing Profit First. So it's huge. I mean, yeah.
Profit First makes it all very simple, and in my experience, it opens the door for most entrepreneurs who don't feel very savvy in understanding their profit and loss and balance sheets to start understanding how to read those and work with them. And that's a lot of what we do with our clients in the Better Business, Better Life program, is just educating how to use these as tools for the information that you need to make informed decisions about your business. What I think is really cool and very powerful for the entrepreneurs who are listening to wrap their head around is the opportunities that Profit First and Pumpkin Plan, or using those together in your business, has created for you, because as we are looking at the new normal for so many entrepreneurs, everything that the way we used to run our business a few months ago, for many, totally different. It's out the door. And it's an opportunity now to reimagine a new business around the core, the top clients and customers, with using pumpkin plan strategy for that, and also bringing in profit first to make the business more stable going forward. One of the things that you have done as a result of your pumpkin planning and use of profit first is you had the opportunity to buy a new business about 2 years ago, which, can you speak some to how that tied into using profit first in pumpkin planning and what that's done?
Yeah, so we bought a business a few years ago, and so it increased our capacity needs by 40%. And having pumpkin plan in place, we knew the customers that we wanted to have, and that business had enough of those types of clients. We did have to clean out, the pumpkin patch. There was about a third of the customers that just didn't belong in that model, and we've since replaced those. And having profit first, it allowed us to figure out what the numbers needed to be, how much we're going to have, and it shows up when we're light cash. Where have we overspent? Where do we need to tweak our budgets, looking at estimated versus actual? And in 2010, 11, and 12, I could have not had this conversation at all. I really came from the school of, if I knew about, I own a landscape company, right? So if I knew about dirt, soil, plants, trucks, and how to sell, then I should have a good company. But I was really missing the financial side. And you can know 600 different plants, but if you don't know how to price it right to get the right gross profit margin, so you can have, profitable business, then you're going to struggle. And that's what I did 7 days a week for the previous 10 years before I started Pumpkin Plan and Profit First. I worked 7 days a week. So,
yeah. So this has really allowed you to make a business that has margin in it, so you could have a more sustainable life. And since then, you've taken multiple 4-week vacations. And you have really built a team that is able to lead, and you've delegated things. And so the business, when we talk about sustainable, the business is absolutely much more sustainable because it's no longer reliant on you.
Right. So I had 4-week vacations. I stopped working weekends, which is an amazing thing. I had no idea what that was about, or at least I had forgot what that was about. But, outside of not working weekends, I have a team that can run the company now. I can take 4-week vacations. But the biggest part of it for me has been the impact I can make on my community. Now I have revenue and money to support, local causes that help kids, the local community, and my team. I can pay them what they are worth now. So, people are buying homes and houses, and they're driving decent cars. If you look at my parking lot, no one has a fancy car, but there's no junkers. And that's a big part of the quality of life and quality of a company.
That's huge. And I want to tie this back to our guest last week on Facebook Live. We had Mike McAllowitz with us, and he was talking about his book, Fix This Next, and the business hierarchy of needs. And so I don't know if those of you who are listening to this caught this, but Steve just walked us through the business hierarchy of needs. So he went from, barely breaking even, down at the very bottom with struggling with sales and profit. He was in that spot for many, many years. And that's where many entrepreneurs are. And then as those two parts got solid, Steve was able to move his attention up the hierarchy and start focusing on building his team and creating a safe, supported environment where belonging happens. And then moving into impact level, where you were seeing that your ability to pay your team members more because you have the margin in place, because you have put profit first and pumpkin plan in place in the business. Now your team members' quality of life has improved, and you all have the resources to be able to be active in the community and supporting the community as well. And Mike made such a good point last week that if we aren't taking care of our base level needs, we really have nothing left to give to show up and take care of team members and be an active contributor in the community as well. So I just want to emphasize, what Steve is sharing here. His ability to do that is because he's done so much to put all those foundational pieces in place in his business. And the next thing I want to talk about is your leadership and what that has looked like through coronavirus. Before we go there, I just want to share, I will be doing a webinar about pumpkin planning, introduction to pumpkin planning, to help you reimagine your business in the new normal. And there's a link scrolling up below the screen here, tapthepotential.com/pumpkin webinar. This is a free webinar that I'll be doing. You can get on the waiting list so that you are the first to be notified when that webinar comes out. And I'll also pop the link here in the chat. So go ahead and get signed up, and you will be the first to get notified when we have that webinar live for you. So Steve, your leadership is tremendous, and you're very intentional about your leadership. We at Tap the Potential talk about leading with love, and I really see you doing that. And I would love for you to talk about what that means to you and what are the things that you are doing to lead with love.
Right. I mean, leading with love, that's a big, uncomfortable topic. For me, it's not something like I've never been a touchy-feely guy, but leading with love for me comes across as being patient and listening and paying attention to people's strengths. My wife and I were taking a walk Sunday morning, and as we're walking, there's a guy that goes by and he does the sign of the cross, and he had his earbuds in. He's listening to the mass. And another woman walked by a few minutes later, and she's kind of walking and bebopping to the music. She's got her earbuds in. And my wife is pointing out all the songbirds that she's hearing. I don't hear them. I'm thinking of something completely else. And my wife goes, it's really too bad that they have their earbuds in and they're not listening to the songbirds. And before I would have been like, oh yeah, that's right. It's too bad they're missing the songbirds, whatever, the songbirds. But I'm leading with love. So I just stayed curious and not judgmental. And I said to her, I think the guy, he needed to listen to that mass, and that woman, she needed that music, and you needed the songbirds. And she just looked at me. She's like, I understand. And I just kind of recognize what people need, and it's not what I need. They need what they need. And I think in the company, we've had lots of anxiety. We've had lots of questions that I didn't have answers to. So we had to have more communication. And I just had to listen more. And I find I give advice from where I'm at. I don't always listen enough and just kind of give them coaching from where they're coming at. So that's how we've been leading with love, really taking the time and patience to really see what people need.
Well, and so it's your presence, as you described, being on the walk. I really felt you were fully present in that moment, having that conversation, even though, as you described it, your head was elsewhere before your wife started talking to you. But as soon as she started talking, you were present, you were curious, and you asked questions. One of the things that you're really good with in your leadership presence is asking powerful questions. Can you talk a little bit more about what you've noticed and how you do that with your team members?
So in the Clifton strengths, which I'm always referring to, one of my top 5 strengths is individualism. So I ask questions that are about them and that they connect to help them see what they're not seeing about themselves. One of the things I struggle with, I don't see everything. I have blind spots in parts of how I think because I'm always rushing and have an agenda. And people miss their strengths. I have people on my team, I have to frequently bring up their strengths because they're always finding what they did wrong or finding what they missed. But my job, my big why is to provide motivation and encouragement. I got to read it so I get it right. To provide motivation and encouragement to continue forward regardless of the challenges, so that we learn and grow personally and professionally in mutually fulfilling relationships. So if I'm staying in my strength, that helps me ask the questions that they need to answer for themselves, so they can stay in their strengths and they can see the very best parts of themselves. So that's kind of my question asking is really about the individual and helping them see the best parts of what they're doing and who they are.
So I think what you said about oftentimes we don't see our own strengths is very important for us as leaders to remember, that we ourselves oftentimes take our strengths for granted. We assume everybody else, all these things that come easy to us, our natural way of showing up in the world, everybody else must do that too. And so when we use tools like People Map and Strengths Finder, all of a sudden we have a big bright spotlight shined for us on what our strengths are and what makes us unique, what our unique contribution is, and how we can show up and be a gift from our gifts. And what I hear you say is you're so aware of this on your team, that your team members, even though they've all done People Map, Strengths Finder, you're really holding your role as the one who's going to look for how to bring their strengths out, and it's not you bringing the strengths out, it's you're asking the questions that help them connect with their strengths and look for how they can be a gift from their strengths. Can you think of an example on your team in recent weeks where you've seen a team member really show up and be a gift from their strengths?
So just the other day, we had a conversation. We had someone that was in charge of stocking the chemical cabinet, right? Making sure that everybody has everything they need. And he did a really good job with it, but he's been promoted up to be more of a manager. So he assigned everybody to be responsible to stocking the cabinet. When you have everybody who's responsible, that means nobody is responsible, and there's no way to hold anybody accountable. So, and this just happened last week. So we met, there's lots of frustration, lots of disappointment. So we're like, okay, who has the strengths that would really serve managing that chemical cabinet and making sure it's stocked? Who's the one individual? And that manager knew immediately who that person was. So we've assigned him to that. He's the manager of that now. He has the strength of detail and organization, and that way he's making sure that it's ready when everyone comes in. So really assigning that person to that task. And we had another situation where we have complicated work, lots of little things involved. And we have someone that not only, I don't like complicated, detailed work with lots of tiny little details. We have someone that loves it. And he's doing that work today. And he checked in around 11 o'clock. He's just having the best Monday. And it's putting that person's strength. So what we're finding in the COVID situation, if we have our team in their strengths, their anxiety goes way down. Their stress goes way down. Their errors and mistakes just, are reduced to almost nothing. As long as we're keeping our people in their strength zones and honoring that, people are really showing up. They're healthier. They're not missing days at work. They're not grumpy. They're not grouchy. They're not complaining. They're really thriving in their strength.
That is so valuable to hold that awareness, because there is a lot of anxiety out there. And, even before COVID-19, one of the things that I noticed on our team is that it creates drag for us as individuals when we are working outside our strengths. I know personally, as I've gotten to delegate more and more over the years, as our team has grown, I was just reflecting this morning on my walk about things that I was doing in the business this time last year that I'm so grateful we have our team doing that. Shout out to Rochelle, Melissa, Kara, Darren and Stacy, Amy and Donna, all the things that you guys are doing. You've taken so much off of me, and we've been so intentional about putting people in the role of their strengths, because like you said, Steve, when we get to work from our strengths, we feel good about it. It's not hard. And really looking for who is the best person. I heard you say that. Who's the best person on the team to handle this job that needs to be done? Who's got the strengths to do that? And I feel like people feel much more proud of their work when they're working from strengths. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the day goes by when they're operating in their strength. The day goes by faster. Everything is easier, and when you have to start thinking of consequences for your team members and employee, they're not operating from their strengths. If you put them in a position where they're operating from their strengths, they are compelled to excel. That's all they can think about is how much fun this is and how enjoyable it is. And it's just a whole different day. Equipment doesn't get broken. When people are late, things are getting missed, forgotten. Equipment might be broken. Customers are not being communicated to. That's when those are the messages. Here's your sign that people are not in their strengths.
Yeah.
Put our communicators to communicate. Put our restorative people to fix stuff. Put our high individualism woo people to sell and find out the customer's needs. And the more I do that, I mean, we still struggle with it, but the more we're intentional about it, and the more we do that, the less of all those other problems we have.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to skip something really important in what you're sharing. You have been very intentional in your hiring process, that you have purposely hired A players who are a good fit for the company's immutable laws. And so having that in place allows you then to focus on who's the right person, who's got the strengths to do this work. And so that's where you really see that heightened productivity and engagement from team members. And I want to share one of the things that we do on our team that we've been doing for about a year now that's really made a difference. In our one-to-ones, I ask our team members in the past week, on a scale of 1 to 10, to what extent have you gotten to use your strengths? And 10 being, I used my strengths all week, it was an awesome week, 1 being not at all. That opens on a weekly basis the conversation around how do we realign what you're doing with your strengths. And I get so excited when a team member makes comments like, the week just flew by. It was so much fun. I can't believe it's Friday already. Well, that happens when somebody's working from their strengths.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
And, hiring the best, you're way ahead if you're hiring the best. I mean, they're so much easier to work with. They get everything, and people join our company not to work in landscaping, but they join it. So it goes back to my why, a mutually beneficial relationship, mutually fulfilling relationships. They come here to become a better person. We have lots of education, lots of training. So if you're just looking for a job, we're not really the company. You will not fit in here. If you want to be more of a person, learn more, then this is the place to work. And hiring the best right up front. The immutable laws are tremendous, to have them. We actually put our immutable laws right in our help wanted ads when we hire about one person a year. And it was interesting, when we advertised on Indeed, we'd get between 150 and 200 resumes. We put our immutable laws in that ad, and it cuts it out by 2/3 of responders.
Wow. So let's kind of clarify a little bit about those immutable laws. And when you say immutable laws, what do you mean by that, Steve?
Without reading through the whole list, really, it's like being respectful, being honest, being, open communication. Honesty is a two-way street, and being, we're very flexible with our team. Many of the people that work here have children. So, they have certain needs that we need to have flexibility around, and we're willing and able and capable of doing that. We want to do that. But when we need them to be the same way for us. So, if that's the kind of person you are, then, it works here. But, polite honesty, it's just basic things. And you wouldn't think that would scare people off, but we were shocked at how many people that scared off.
Yeah, you're putting your stake in the sand and our stake in the ground, and you're saying, this is who we are as a company. This is how we do things. If you want to do things this way, great, we should talk. And if this is not you, then let's not even go there. And that really is the seed for creating a great culture in your business, which you've certainly done. So since we're talking about how to hire the best, I found it on Amazon. That is my book. The latest edition is the Contractors Edition. It's available on Amazon, and I posted the link here in the chat. And I'm currently working on How to Hire the Best, the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Guide to Attracting Top Performing Employees. That one will be out September 15th. And in a couple of weeks, we are going to be asking for readers who want to give early feedback on the book. So that'll be something. Make sure you are on our mailing list at Tap the Potential, and you'll have the opportunity to be one of the early readers of How to Hire the Best in the latest edition. And every time we put one of those editions out, there's new information. The Entrepreneur's Edition is going to have a lot more information in it on onboarding, because you do all this hard work to bring team members in, and you don't want to drop the ball as soon as you've got them. So how do you keep them engaged and get them into the working from their strengths and doing the things you need them to do? So Steve, one of the things you've been very intentional yourself about is protecting your strengths. So I'd love for you to speak a little bit about that and why that's been important in your role as you've grown the company.
So identifying these strengths have been huge for me personally, and even my wife and our relationship, but in the relationship and with all my employees and with each other. But one of the things, so I have high influencing relationship strengths. I don't have strategic and high executing. So I have a great idea and I can get a team to go do it, but I'm not the doer of it. When people say, oh, just build this box and you can stand on it, I look for a box building guy, the very best box building guy. I don't go buy tools to build a box. So what I have to protect myself, because people would say, Steve, just do this and just do that. I don't do those things. I don't fix trucks. There's lots of things I don't do. I find the best mechanic. I find the guy who loves to fix trucks. So those are my strengths. So when people say, you should write this long, big thing out, or you should do this big thing, I don't do that. I have to be right up front and be clear with them. Steve doesn't do that. I communicate this way. And it's the same thing with my team. What happens is, and I was just having this conversation with my lawn care manager, we give advice from our strengths. So I had a friend, he said, I'm having a challenge with this employee. So my first response was, well, go talk to him, go have this conversation with him, because that's what I would do. That's not what he would do. He would not, he's not high communicative or emotional. He's high strategic in executing. So, I was giving advice from my strengths. When I really stepped back and looked at it, I'm like, what ways do you feel comfortable communicating to this person? What do you think you can do? So I'm constantly aware of it. So with my team, same thing with that. We made everybody responsible for this chemical inventory and loading up, even my free spirit people, they don't want to count chemicals and ounces and gallons, and this goes in this column in this row. Free spirit people are not typically that person. So having that person be ahead of the chemicals, we were setting up to fail. So I have to protect people's strengths so that they can win. Now I could send that person to go meet with any problem customer, and they come back and we'll get a call about how wonderful that person was, how wonderful my person was, and how they completely understood them. They have the people and the free spirit. They come up with alternative ways of solving problems and dealing with people, not tracking ounces of chemicals.
Yeah. So you're not just protecting your own strengths, but you're also protecting your team members' strengths and making sure people are in the right role too. Right. So it's very, very important. So the other thing that you are very intentional about is creating a safe, supported feeling for your team. And it's not just your team though. You're really intentional about this just in your leadership all around. Wherever you show up, you are seeking to be a part of creating a safe and supported environment for the others there. This is new for you within the last, I think, year and a half. So maybe speak to what made you aware of the importance of doing that and how you started being more intentional about it. And then let's bring it up to present day and how you do it.
So, I spent a lot of years I was trying to be the person that I thought some people needed. In this situation or this relationship, I was trying to be the person I thought that person needed there and that and this and all through my whole life. But doing the Strength Finder, I realized that I need to be me 100% all the time. And then whoever needs me will show up. They will find me. So that was kind of the first step. And then it started when I would go to business retreats and business seminars and business, 4-day weekends, really intense. I noticed whenever people felt safe and supported, that it was okay to be vulnerable and admit they didn't know what to do and share that they were afraid of something or something confused them or they didn't understand. When people were safe and supported, they made huge leaps so much quicker than when they had to be guarded and protected and kind of not vulnerable because they weren't really being themselves. They had that shield up like I did before. And as soon as you can say, I don't know, somebody steps in and says, I know, and I can help you. You're like, great. So then wherever I saw safe and supported, I saw big gains in people, really big improvements. So I brought that back to my company in 2019. And when I first rolled it out, people were like, oh, kumbaya, this feeling, touching, emotional stuff. But it really wasn't that. It was really about, supporting people. Do you have enough time to do stuff? Do you have enough people? Do you have the right people? Are you operating in your strengths? Do you have all the resources? Do you have the right customers? It's hard to win when you have the wrong customer base. So it was really about focusing on that, and it created a lot of communication. And people just started excelling in our company. And people that we hired, like for laborers a few years ago, now they're managers. And it was really because that safe and supported. And in our one-on-one, the last question we ask is on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being not at all, and 5 being 100%. How safe and supported do you feel? So it makes a tremendous amount of difference, and it drops people's stress. Back to the people have stress even before COVID. People have a lot of stress between family, work, and just everyday life. And this just added the COVID thing, added a whole nother level. But if you can go to work and feel safe and supported, it really helps with the mental and emotional health of our team. I think I lost Dr. Sabrina. So I guess I'm going to keep talking just in case we're still alive. So we did the safe and supported, and I even did it with my family, and it's interesting because it helped me to be more safe and supportive to my immediate family, giving them this test. And one of the things that I kind of found out that I needed to listen more, hear what people said, take the time to slow down, and really listen. So doing the safe and supported talks has really been a big help. Let's check this. I think we're still live. I think Dr. Sabrina is going to try to come up here. So one of the things that we do to continue with the safe and supported is we do these one-on-ones. And with our team, with my executive team, it's weekly. With our production teams, it's about once a month. And I have 5 questions that I ask them. One question is to share wins and successes. So if they've had a win or success, it can be both personally or at work. and we start the meeting off with that, and then we go over a challenge. So a challenge is something that they can control, and something they're working through, and then we go over an issue. So an issue is something that they can't control, maybe they're struggling with, which is like weather or bridge closing or something that they have no control over, but they're trying to figure out how to work their way around it. And then we go over personal development. What are they learning? What do they want to learn? And they'll share, something that they have gone through in the past week or month that they've been like, I figured this out, or I have more questions about that, and I need more resources to work on this. And then we go over our big goal, and we go over our small goal. So the big goal is like for the week or the month, and then a small goal might be for just that week or even that few days. And then the last question is on a scale from 1 to 5, how safe and supported they feel. So in some, we do this. Some people come with the whole sheet filled out before we even start. And other people, they just kind of go through it and they talk about it. And it's not a evaluation. We're not judging any of their work. It's really just to share where they're at and anything that we can help them with. So that's the one-on-one. And that, again, I was kind of nervous about doing that because that's another meeting. And but once it was awkward, the first probably 2 or 3 meetings, or first 2 or 3 one-on-ones with everyone. But then after that, it got a little easier because I found out I don't have to do a lot of the talking. Questions are written down, and the team member answers them. And I might just ask a few more questions like, how can we support you, or what did you learn through that? But I don't have to do a lot of talking. So that has been a big benefit. So we are still live. I guess I'll just I will keep talking until someone tells me not to. So why did they ask me on this, right?
Steve, you are the best guest ever. You kept going. You're awesome. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. So my internet dropped on my end. I apologize for that. And I thought it had kicked you off. I was able to use my phone to get on Facebook, and I saw you were still going through the interview. So, best guest ever. You're awesome for doing that.
I was going to start, well, why did they ask me to be on the show? Let's go over that. So
oh, Facebook Live in the age of Corona and all the awkwardness that happens. So just as we are here wrapping up, I feel like we covered a lot, and you shared a lot with us in terms of talking about how Pumpkin Plan and Profit First have been a key piece of making your business stable and sustainable. You've built on that foundation in your leadership, and what you've shared here with us around your intentions around creating a safe, supported environment, being present, leading with love, asking questions, eliciting people's awareness of working from strengths. These have been some very powerful leadership strategies, and I hope it's been helpful to our listeners. As we wrap up, I do want to share we have the free Pumpkin Plan webinar coming up. Make sure you're signed up so you are the first to get notified about that. You can register for that at tapthepotential.com/webinar. Next week is Memorial Day, and so we're going to Work Supports Life. We're taking a day off at Tap the Potential, so we will not have a Facebook Live next Monday. We will have our next installment of Self-Care and Strategy for Entrepreneurs Through the Coronavirus event Monday after next. I appreciate everyone who has joined us. We've had a lot of people watching, coming in and out, Steve. So I think you've impacted a lot of entrepreneurs here with what you've shared. So thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. See you guys later. Bye, everyone.